Whenever my dad introduced us to people, he'd say, "This is Lena, our future lawyer." If I happened to be standing there, I'd just get, "And this is her sister." No name, no explanation, just a ghost hanging in the background. For the longest time, I figured maybe I was overthinking it, being too sensitive. But then came Lena's high school graduation 2 years ago, and the truth hit me in the face. The whole extended family showed up, dressed in their pastel best, plastering on those forced, polite smiles. My name didn't even make it onto the banner. And during Dad's speech, he actually said, "To my one and only star." I was literally standing 3 feet away from him. Eventually, I gave up asking why they never shared my college acceptance online or why they never stopped by to visit. I stopped wondering why every holiday card had a fresh family photo, with me missing from each one. I still remember one of those cards like it's burned into my memory. It was a Christmas photo. They were all decked out in red, even the dog. And right in the center, where I used to stand, there was Lena, holding the dog, our parents smiling on either side of her like they were straight out of a department store ad. They didn't crop me out. They red-hot the entire thing without me. No one ever said I was cut off. They didn't have to. That's when I learned people can erase you quietly. No funeral, just absence. My name's Isa Morgan, but if you ask my father, I don't exist. The email came on a random Tuesday, not from anyone in the family, of course. It was from the alumni office at Eastern University. Funny enough, Lena and I both ended up there. Just felt like we were living in different worlds. The subject line read, "You're invited. Class of 2025 commencement highlights." I almost deleted it on sight. Normally, I skip anything with digital confetti at the top, but something about the preview text caught my eye. Special keynote investor to be revealed at ceremony. Investor? I got curious. I clicked through, skimmed past the smiling grads, the donation links, the endless parking instructions until I saw it. A silhouetted image with the caption, "CEO of one of North America's fastest-growing rural medtech startups." No name, but the rumors were flying. It was me. My chest tightened. I wasn't sure whether my heart wanted to stop or sprint. Nobody knew I was the one behind that company. I'd built it quietly under a pseudonym, funded by angel investors and clinical trials. I wasn't looking for a spotlight. I just wanted to put distance between me and the people who made me feel invisible. Then a few hours later, a second email hit my inbox. This one wasn't meant for me. It was a forwarded chain between my aunt and a few other relatives. Photos of Lena in her cap and gown. Catering options. A seating chart. And right there, a line from my dad. "Make sure ISA doesn't hear about this. The last thing we need is a distraction on Lena's big day." Distraction. That single word hit harder than anything he'd ever said out loud. They didn't just forget about me. They made a plan to leave me out. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt ice cold. Clear. Sharp. I wasn't going to crash the graduation. That wasn't my style. No, I was going to own the room next door. I sat there that night in the dark. No lights. No music. Just the soft buzz of the fridge and the blue glow of my laptop. Their words kept circling in my head like background static. "Make sure ISA doesn't hear about it. She'll ruin it. She always makes it about herself." And I believed them. Not all at once. It didn't hit me like lightning. It was more like years of rain wearing me down, slow, steady, until I couldn't tell where their voices ended and mine began. Maybe I really was the problem. I started thinking about that one Christmas I skipped going home, the birthdays I let pass without calling, the unanswered messages from cousins who probably didn't know what to say anymore. I thought about the company I never told a soul about, how I signed every form, every agreement, under a fake name, just to keep it all separate from them. Maybe keeping everything to myself was selfish. Or maybe it was the only way I knew how to protect myself. Even now, I couldn't say for sure. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop, tired eyes, messy bun hanging by a thread, an old hoodie with my startup's logo barely visible. No one would recognize this girl as the so-called dropout who walked away. The girl no one ever looked at the way she wished they would. And when nobody sees you, really sees you, do you even exist? The next morning, I opened my laptop again and logged into our investor platform. There it was in plain text, Eastern University commencement. Keynote speaker confirmed. Name to be announced. I hovered my cursor over the field labeled display name, paused for a beat, then typed 3 words and hit save. ISA Morgan, CEO. Later that day, it started with the sound of paper rustling in the back of my kitchen drawer. I wasn't digging for anything in particular, maybe a takeout menu or some batteries, but my fingers brushed against something soft. I pulled it out, a crumpled old lunch receipt, at least 5 years old, corners bent, ink nearly gone. But on the back, I saw a familiar line, handwritten in loopy script. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. My mom's handwriting. She used to leave me little notes like that tucked into books, stuck to my mirror, folded into the pockets of my winter coat before final exams. She died when I was 19. She never got the chance to see any of this. She never saw me become anything more than the girl her family forgot. But that note? It felt like she sent it exactly when I needed it. That same day, I got a message from Owen, my CTO. Investor Summit is locked in. Same campus, same weekend. You in? I sat with that text for a long time. That's when I remembered Lena's graduation ceremony was going to be happening just across the quad. Same university, same day, same hour. It felt too exact to be coincidence. Like the universe had drawn a perfect circle and handed me a pen to sign my name inside it. So I opened 2 tabs, one for the summit schedule, the other for Eastern's graduation ticket portal. Under guest name, I typed in a pseudonym. Just one front row seat. I wasn't planning to make a speech. I wasn't showing up to cause drama. I didn't even care about seeing Lena. I wanted to see them, the ones who had written me out. I didn't need to reclaim my seat at their table. I was about to take over the entire building next door. At exactly 2:07 a.m., the confirmation emails landed. My seat at the summit? Confirmed. My ticket to the graduation? Secured. 2 events. 1 weekend. 1 campus. And somehow I was at the center of both without anyone realizing it yet. I didn't use my real name for the graduation seat, just a monogram version, something subtle. I didn't want attention. Not yet. What I wanted was proximity. I wanted to be close enough to watch my father's face when he realized the daughter he erased could still show up, uninvited, and sit just 3 seats away. The morning of the trip, I packed light, a black dress, a navy blazer, and 1 pair of low heels I hadn't touched in years. Same heels I wore when I pitched my startup to a panel of investors who never once asked if I had a degree. But what I did have was the data, the drive, and a plan they couldn't ignore. On the train ride to East, I passed the old science building where I used to crash between classes. That same place where Lena once told her friends I was just some dropout who followed her around. Funny, because now my name was quietly circulating on the summit itinerary, whispers behind closed doors. When I arrived at the university, the usher at the graduation gate scanned my ticket and smiled. This seat was reserved early. Front row. Someone must have really wanted you here. I smiled back. Yeah, I guess they did. I took my seat, 3rd from the aisle. The sun warmed the back of my neck as students began filing in. Nobody paid me any attention. Not yet, but I saw them all. And then, behind me, I heard it, the unmistakable voice of my father. I could hear my dad's voice before I saw him, low and steady, but clipped, like he was giving orders without needing to raise his tone. He was by the entrance, pacing, talking to a guy with a clipboard and a radio. It was that same tone he used when he wanted someone gone without making a scene. I kept my eyes down. He didn't look directly at me. Just scanned the rows with that same narrow-eyed stare he gave me the day I walked out of that house for good. The usher came up beside me. "Ma'am, "Can I confirm your name for the seating log?" she asked politely. I handed her my ticket. She gave me a warm nod and moved along. 2 rows ahead, there was Lena, seated with the graduates. Her cap angled just right, her gown smooth like it'd just been steamed. She looked almost exactly the same. Maybe a little colder. Maybe a bit more polished. But I recognized that look on her face. It was her on-stage face. Lena was always great at looking the part. A professor passing by paused, did a double take as he glanced at me. "Wait," he said under his breath. "You're Isa Morgan, from Metfair, right?" I didn't say yes, just gave him a small smile. "I read your case study on rural telehealth infrastructure. Brilliant work." He said it just loud enough that the 2 people behind me perked up. A breeze rolled through the campus, and the university banners flapped across the quad. Then the speakers crackled on. It was time. The ceremony was starting. Behind me, my dad's voice came again, this time louder, more clipped. "She's not supposed to be here. She's not on the list." I didn't move. Let him panic. Let him scan the crowd for someone who no longer existed. Because the version of me he erased? She was gone. What was left was the woman sitting in the front row. And pretty soon, everyone on that campus was going to know her name. The Investor Summit was kicking off 40 minutes after the graduation wrapped up. Across the lawn, inside the university's glass auditorium, banners were already rolling my company's name. Metfair Health, closing keynote. How one startup quietly changed the game. I slipped out during the 3rd speech, right as Lena's department head took the mic. By the time my father noticed the empty seat, I was already gone. Backstage at the summit, my assistant handed me the final slide deck. "All set. No one's figured out it's you. Even the dean thinks the CEO is some Ivy League recluse." I nodded and started flipping through the presentation. The numbers were solid. Charts, graphs, projections, all tight. But the ending didn't sit right. I scrolled to the final slide. It just said, "Thank you." Plain. Forgettable. I hit delete. In its place, I typed, Isela Morgan, Eastern University, class of never, and just below that, in smaller text, "You erased me, so I built something permanent." My assistant peeked over my shoulder and blinked. "That's bold." "It's honest," I replied. She didn't push back. I stared at the screen one last time, my reflection staring back. Hair tied back, no makeup, just a black blazer, and a name they'd tried to bury. Then I heard the clapping outside. The graduation must have ended. Inside, someone was already announcing the summit's keynote speaker. "Please welcome the founder and CEO of Metfair." And somewhere at that exact moment, while camera flashes lit up the room and whispers rippled through the crowd, one of Lena's professors leaned toward her and said something quietly. I didn't see what he said, but I saw her eyes go wide, and I stepped into the lights. Funny thing? The lights didn't even feel hot. The stage didn't feel towering. I didn't feel small. I walked into the spotlight without a script. Just one thing behind me, my real name, bold and bright on the projector screen. E.A. Morgan, CEO, Metfair Health. For a beat, the room was silent. No applause. Not because they weren't impressed, but because they were connecting the dots. The whispers started. Then phones came out. And slowly, breathlessly, it hit them. They'd been quoting my research for years without knowing whose name belonged to it. I cleared my throat. I built Metfair because no one in my family believed I could finish anything. A pause. They weren't entirely wrong. I didn't finish college. I didn't finish Thanksgiving dinners. I didn't finish being the daughter they wanted. Pause. Click. But I finished this. The next slide lit up. A map showing our rural health network, towns once overlooked, now lit with access points and clinics. Click. Hospitals. Names we'd partnered with. Lives we'd already changed. Click. A grainy photo. Me, 6 years ago, soldering prototype wires in a dorm hallway. No lab. No funding. No applause. I scanned the audience. Trustees. Founders. Students. professors. And there, in the third row beside a faculty member, sat Lena's professor. His gaze jumped from the screen to her, then back to me. "You didn't tell me she was your sister," he said, just loud enough for the mic to catch it. Lena didn't respond. She stiffened. He turned his attention back to the stage. "Nice work, CEO." That was the moment. Not the applause that followed. Not the standing ovation. Not the flood of emails that would come pouring in hours later from people who once ghosted me. It was that one line. From the one person she needed approval from. The one voice she couldn't curate. The one sentence that didn't belong to her. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I could feel her watching, and I knew my father was somewhere behind her, boiling, but I didn't have to say anything to either of them because the truth had spoken, and this time it had a microphone. I slipped out the back exit. No press. No staged photos. Just the sound of applause echoing off glass and stone. I didn't wait for handshakes or congratulations. I didn't need them. By the time I reached my hotel, my phone was buzzing nonstop to 37 unread messages. 6 missed calls from unknown numbers and 1 text from my cousin. "Was that you on stage?" Dad nearly choked. I didn't reply. I didn't have to dot. A clip of the moment had already gone viral. That one line, "Nice work, CEO," was being replayed, subtweeted, quoted with fire emojis. And every time someone shared it, there I was, standing at the podium, no notes, no filters, just my name and the silence I'd carried for years. I didn't post it. Didn't tag the university. Didn't mention Lena, but I knew they saw it. A few hours later, her graduation photo vanished from my father's Facebook. In its place? A vague quote about humility, classic. Lena didn't tag anyone either. No, thank you to my amazing family caption. Just a single filtered shot. No smile. No context. I didn't break their silence with noise. I didn't have to. They heard me. In the halls where my name had been wiped from the walls. In the rooms they never thought I'd return to. In the voices of strangers, students, professors, even critics, who now spoke the name they once buried. E.A. Morgan, CEO. Not their shame. Not their regret. Not their loss. Just the woman who walked in, stood tall, and never looked back. That Monday, my inbox was full again. Not with venture capital pitches. Not media requests. With messages from family. Not direct ones, of course. That would have meant owning something. No, these came disguised as polite curiosity. A message from my second cousin. "Hi, ISA. Long time. Just saw the keynote clip. Wow. Any chance you're hiring interns this summer?" An email from one of my father's college friends. "Greg mentioned you started something in healthcare. Would love to connect. Our son just graduated and is looking for opportunities." And then the boldest of them all, a DM from Lena's boyfriend. "We'd met once. He'd barely said hello. Didn't realize Metfear was yours. Truly impressive. Let me know if you're ever building a legal team." No mention of Lena. No apology. Just doors swinging open, the same ones they had once slammed shut in my face. I didn't respond to most, but I did forward one message to my assistant. "Put this one on the not in this lifetime list." She replied with a thumbs up and a skull emoji. Poetic. They once called me a dropout. Said I'd be lucky to keep a desk job. Warned me not to embarrass the family name, and now they were asking me for desk jobs. They didn't notice the moment I became their cautionary tale. But they would remember the day I became their missed opportunity, and the best part? I never raised my voice. I just raised the bar. They didn't erase me with cruelty. Not with slurs or shouting. They erased me like pencil, soft, quiet, deliberate. Until even I started to wonder if I'd ever been written there at all. And when I finally walked away, no fight, no final words, they sighed like it was a relief. Like the family was fixed again. I let them keep that version of the story. Let them sit in living rooms and say, "We haven't heard from ISA in years." Like I was a distant relative instead of a daughter, a sister, a soul they'd chosen to forget. But the truth, it never stays buried. Not when it builds something permanent. Not when it walks across a stage with a mic in hand. They couldn't mute it anymore. My name was on brochures, quoted in headlines, etched into keynote speeches. They couldn't scroll past it, couldn't pretend they didn't see, and that was the quietest revenge I could ever ask for. I never asked to be welcomed back. I just made sure that everywhere they turned, I was already there. Not as the girl they dismissed, not as the failure they whispered about, but as the woman they now had to Google, the one with her own legacy, and no matter how hard they tried to look away, this time, I was unforgettable. I never went back to the house. Not even when my father sent word through a cousin, something vague about putting things behind us and family being family. He didn't mean apology, he meant optics, and I wasn't interested. There was nothing for me there. Not the room with the peeling wallpaper. Not the dusty shelf where my childhood trophies used to be. Not even the garden my mother once loved, now overgrown, bitter under the summer heat. But I did return, just not the way they wanted. I returned in every hallway that now echoed with my name. In clinics using our tech. In classrooms dissecting my early research. In whispered praise between faculty and trustees who once barely saw Methy couldn't take credit for me. They couldn't even understand me, and that was the final gift. I had become something they couldn't hold, couldn't rewrite, couldn't resize to fit their comfort. A professor from Easton sent me a handwritten letter. We've added your keynote to our ethics curriculum under legacy and resilience. Legacy. Funny how that word used to feel too heavy for me. Like something I wasn't allowed to touch. Now it was mine voiceover. Final shot. They thought I was a distraction, a mistake. An empty chair at the wrong table. But when they buried me in silence, I came back with something louder. I came back with truth.